Good evening. My name is Joe Cina. I'm also one of your candidates running here in Pender County this year. I'm very excited about running. I do serve on 3 committees already for our county, so this is something else I'm trying to add to my belt. My wife, Diana Cina, is here in the audience tonight. I can't thank her enough for being here by my side, because whatever I go through, she goes through twice. So, thank you everyone for coming tonight. Pender County is a great county. We've got over 14,000 registered Republicans. We've got over 12,000 registered unaffiliated, so that's 26,000 people we need to motivate to come out and vote. April 19th is early voting, and May 8th is our primary, so we've got to do our part, motivate people and get them involved. Let's get people out of their houses and become part of the solution, not part of the problem. So, thanks for coming out. Thank you, guys.
Approximately how many people have you arrested in the last 10 years?
That's a tough question. 10 years. I don't have enough fingers and toes to count that high. It is public information. If you were to go over where I used to work at New Hanover County Sheriff's Office, they'd be happy to give you a copy of it, but man, I know it broke 1,000. I can't tell you how many. Everywhere I go, I see people I've met along the way. That's a tough question to throw that out there. We'll put across some statistics in here, but it wasn't uncommon in New Hanover County to arrest 5, 6, 7 people a night. When I spent a lot of time downtown, it could go higher than that. We'd fill the paddy wagon up, we'd spend until 6 in the morning in the jail facility, going through our paperwork, going through people. So it gets pretty high, pretty fast, unfortunately. I'd like to say that it was a good ride, but that's a tough question to give you the exact answer, but I'd be more than comfortable to say well over 1,000.
How many years have you been in active law enforcement? This being the job that you make your living in full-time.
I ended up with between 16 and 17 years of full-time law enforcement service, and that was, again, full-time law enforcement service. And besides that, I had 4 years at UNCW where I obtained my criminal justice degree, and I would argue all day that's also law enforcement full-time experience, because college is no joke at UNCW.
Will your deputies, I guess, have cameras?
I think the more important question is, why don't we already have them? It's 2018. There's no reason not to have cameras in every vehicle and cameras on every person. Every deputy should have a camera on them. Now, I know that comes down to budgeting questions where you have to look for funding. I'm not privy to, obviously, the meetings between the sheriff and the commissioners, but I would much rather spend the one-time upfront expense for the cameras than to pay the lawsuit. Those cameras, whether good or bad, that is transparency to the public. The public has the right to know whether we did right or we did wrong. If we did wrong, the public has the right to know what are we going to do to fix it. By showing that video evidence, I can make those arguments and I can correct those training situations.
How long have you been a Republican, and what have you done for the party?
I've been a Republican my entire life. My household was Republican my entire life. Large Italian family, 7 of us. We wouldn't have it any other way.
What administrative experience have you had?
Throughout my career, I was a sergeant in multiple units. I was a sergeant over some patrol deputies. I was a sergeant in the detention division over the jail. I've been a sergeant over the detention division in the intake procedure unit. I've also been a sergeant of a joint downtown task force, which was with the City of Wilmington and the New Hanover County Sheriff's Office. Been a lieutenant. I was a lieutenant over the detention facility in New Hanover County. That encompassed also the back of the house and the front of the house. I was also a lieutenant in the courthouse. I've also been a director over the community and schools program here in Pender County. I ran a summer program and I ran an after-school program through that. I've also, since mid-2015, I've been running my own company. I've had up to 8 to 12 employees at a time. So obviously a lot of administrative work there from starting a company from the ground up.
What do you see as the biggest problem areas for the sheriff department?
Obviously, who wouldn't agree that we've got a man problem issue? But unfortunately, that's not my first concern. My first concern is fixing the image. We've got 338 likes on Facebook for our sheriff's office. That's unacceptable. All of us have more than that on our candidacy forms. We need to fix the relationship between the sheriff's office and the community. Once we fix that and we start working together as a community, we're going to be able to do some great things. Because I strongly believe while that deputy's out there alone, whether there's only 5 or 3 working, we have a strong community out there that is willing to help us. And We need to get everybody together so we understand that we can work together and that we can make that phone call and we can do things great. We all want to have another 20 officers, but you can't just do that. But I got over 20 people out there and in this room that are willing to help me, and I want to open that door and get us working together.
What steps do you think we should take to improve the speed limit enforcement?
Obviously, on the east side of our county, when you got 77,000 cars driving past 210 and Highway 17 a day, that's a study done back in December, we have an issue over here on this side. The west side may not have that much traffic, but they definitely have issues out there with speeders and violators, school bus situations. You can't deny that. I applaud Trooper Cutler. Those guys are very understaffed, and they need assistance. There's no doubt in my mind they need assistance, and I am all for a Governor's Highway Safety Program, something we can seek through grants, work with the commissioners, and see what we can do to definitely get them assistance out here. I'm tired of seeing a fire truck wreck traffic. I want to see a deputy out there and open these lanes up and get cars moving. That's something I've preached for a long time. I also want to applaud the commissioners. I think we got 2 and 1, 3 in the House tonight. Their hard work with planning and some other people involved, we do have some relief coming for Highway 17 in 2020. That program will be built, that bypass is going to happen, and there's a median project. I'm out of time. I apologize.
Do you have plans to expand the sheriff department?
Pender County is the 5th largest county in North Carolina, 933 square miles. Currently, you have about 129 employees, that's sworn and civilian. If you go by the recent FBI statistics, on average, for a population of 60,000 citizens, which is where we have hit, you should have 204 sworn and non-sworn employees. If you go by sworn employees only, which are your actual deputies, we have right around 100, and the national average is 144. So by the math, we are definitely below standards and we could use them. You also take into consideration we're 933 square miles. You cannot get across this county in the same amount of time as you can in some other counties. It takes a while. Just getting from the north and the south side of Highway 17 out here will take you long enough to stop, use the bathroom, get something to eat, to finish your trip down to the other side. So yes, we do need more people, but we're going to have to look at some options. We're going to discuss with the county commissioners. I'm out of time.
If you are elected, will you keep your current staff or hire your own?
This is a fantastic question, especially when it pertains to a sheriff's office. I went through a few elections down in New Hanover. When you have over 600 employees, you can imagine. When the sheriff is sworn in on December 3rd, they have a choice to keep staff or not keep staff. Kind of an at-will type of thing, and they don't have to. December 6th, I met with Carson Smith before I registered to run back in December 7th, and I made it very clear to Carson, I have no intentions of releasing any of his staff that's currently employed there. I shook his hand and made it very clear, if everyone remains professional, they will stay in their positions, and they will keep their jobs. I've had to reiterate this twice in my campaign, to include last week I made an 8-minute video on Facebook Live, again reiterating, because I've had repetitive phone calls, are you firing me? No one in the Pender County Sheriff's Office will be fired if they remain professional at all times. You have your right to support your candidate. You have your right to do whatever you want to do, but keep it professional at all times. You got to get in that position. You got to set your objectives and goals and allow everybody the opportunity to meet those.
Are there any liens or judgments against you personally or against your business? No. How can we get more SROs for our schools without breaking the budget?
Back in 2007, when Sandy Hook took place, I was a sergeant with the School Resource Officer Unit in New Hanover County. After that incident occurred, we got 23 new School Resource Officer units. We did that through the cooperation and cooperation between the county commissioners, the school board, the Board of Education, the superintendent, and the sheriff's office. And I believe with everything happening today, we can do that here too. We have to work together. There's also a statute on the books that most people are not familiar with that allows a sheriff to have a volunteer armed guard in the school system. I'll be happy to email that to people later on. If you give me an email address, give it to my wife, I'll email you that statute. But we have to explore all options because our children are very important. We can't snap our finger and all of a sudden have 30 more officers, but we can definitely work together, we can move some money around, and we can make it happen, at least put one body in every one of our schools.
What will you do to decrease the reentry rates of those incarcerated due to the opium Class 1 arrests?
Unfortunately, I do not have my auctioneer license, so I cannot in no way answer this in 60 seconds, but I'll do my best. We've released a 3-part program for opioid epidemic on our webpage back in December. Part 1 is your education awareness. Part 2 is your enforcement, not of the small guy, but of your dealers, transporters, suppliers, manufacturers coming through our community. And Part 3 is what this question pertains to, which is your rehabilitation. Now there's 2 things we want to look at here. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. We're going to steal it from our neighbors. Brunswick County has an anchor program. That's for the officers on the road. That's to help people on the road that need assistance. You can confront any one of their officers at any time with fear of retaliation, and they will give you a counselor. They will give you any type of assistance they can. Part 2 of that, the next wheel we're going to adopt, comes from New Hanover County in their jail. First Sergeant Kudrow runs an outstanding program. The name of it escapes me right now. I think it's 21st Century. But basically what that does is that offers job placement, that offers counseling, that offers all sorts of assistance, residential assistance for inmates in your custody. I'm out of time.
Why should I vote for you?
Thank you for ever asking that question. It's fantastic. 60 seconds. So the reason why I'm asking for your vote is because my wife and my 3 children, my 2, 4, and 6-year-old, mean the world to me. I have experience, I have leadership abilities, I have education, and I have all these things that I'd love to share. And I've been sharing that. I've shared it throughout the years. I currently serve on 3 of your committees for our county, appointed to all of them, and I enjoy that. And I look forward to going further and doing a lot more for us. But my children are the most important thing to me. I lived over on the west side of our county for about 8 years. I'm now on the east side of the county for the last 3 years, so I've seen the concerns on both sides. I have a very open door policy, and that will continue into the sheriff's office. I like to take everybody's beliefs and look and see what's better for everyone. I believe in that. Put people at the table that I disagree with, because their visions and views can help my visions and views. And I know I can do that. I feel strong in that. And I have my wife's support, so that's why we're running.
Currently, there are 2 deputies on patrol in the Hampstead area at any given time. If one is involved in arrest, or the others or other serious call, then the remaining deputy is alone. Will you have a minimum manning policy so no deputy is left alone? What would that policy be? How would you implement it?
That's another very outstanding question, and an issue that everybody's aware of, manpower. To go to a domestic call, you want at least 2 officers. It's hard to answer a call like that appropriately without 2. So if we have a domestic on one end and a domestic on the other end, there's 4, we only have 2 working. What if one's sick? What if one's in jail? What if one's taking a report? Those are all issues that have to be looked at, and we have to look at different avenues to address that. One avenue that I've looked at, and I'm very excited about, is Veterans on Patrol. We're going to do a volunteer program like our neighbors do, kind of like a citizens patrol, and we're going to address some of that and let some of the community come in and help us on some of these calls that are not emergency calls. Let's keep the deputies available for emergencies. We have to definitely go along and do partnerships like Mr. Spivey says. There's no reason we don't have those partnerships. There's no reason we don't expand on our mutual aid agreements with our 3 municipalities, Burgaw PD, Surf City PD, and South Topsail PD. They would love to work hand in hand with us, and they would enjoy the expansion of their jurisdiction to help us on calls, and we return that favor to them. And I'm timed out. Talk to me again. I just ask for your support, not necessarily your vote, but your support. Whether you choose to support myself and my wife and my family, or just pray for us. This is a very tough process. I know what each of these gentlemen's going through. It's not easy. In my law enforcement career, I won't say I've had the honor, but I've had the experience of going to an officer's house in the middle of the night and taking his badge and his gun away from him for misconduct. I have had the honor of hiring law enforcement officers on a hiring board. I've sat on boards and terminated officers. I've done all these different things throughout my career, and they're very tough to do. But I want to use my experience to better our community. And I know I have the experience and the knowledge to do that, and I definitely have the passion. Again, I told you earlier, I have 3 small children. We stayed on the west, we stay on the east. We have a lot to offer. Again, I ask for your support and your prayers. God bless all of you.